Hello, everyone. It's me. I thought that I would be doing a quick little tier list on some classic creepypastas. I'm going to be using this tier list created by, Pig underscore gamer. I'll try my best to put socials down below or maybe a link to the tier list. I also modified it a little bit so it would be easier for me to sort things out. But other than that, let's get right into it. So the first one, Dead Bart. Oh man, we're already starting with a bit of a stinker here. Dead Bart, I think I remember the image was kind of haunting to me, but then I realized that the image that's mainly used with Dead Bart is literally a screenshot that's used in a Simpsons episode. And I mean, don't get me wrong, love The Simpsons. In my opinion, you just need to watch the first 8 seasons and that's basically it. And I think looking back on this, it's not really that good or interesting at all. Not really much I can say about it. It's just one of those lost episode creepypasta things that I can kind of see why it was popular in the day, but nowadays it's just aged like spoiled milk. And frankly, unlike other classic creepypastas, this one is something that I just do not really have any respect for. Not really much to say about it. It's like an easy F tier, just really forgettable at the end of the day. Jeff, my boy, it's the boy, Jeff the Killer. Looking at the image nowadays, it's very obvious how basic the Photoshop is. Looking back on, myself as a kid, I feel like the only reason this got to me so much is because, overactive imagination. And also I feel like the fact that it was in such low definition, just very pixely stuff, it just felt very uncanny. When looking at the original story itself, the image is the best aspect of it. I still cannot believe that this was spooky to me when I was a kid. I think Creepcast put it best. Shout out to Creepcast, by the way, where I think they described him as an anime boy, and I think that description is right on the money. Because doesn't this guy literally kill a kid by punching him directly in his heart, which causes his heart to stop? Come on, man. I feel like the only praise that I can give this is, I guess, the overall impact, because it's just iconic image and influence over internet horror in general, which I do have to admit, internet horror nowadays would be very different if Jeff the Killer didn't exist, because I'm pretty sure nowadays you see creepy smiles everywhere. So I can kind of commend Jeff the Killer for that. But with that, we also have the Jeff the Killer fanfic, which in my eyes is unforgivable. So I'm gonna be a little nice and put it in D, though it deserves less in my opinion. Sonic EXE. I have a bit of a soft spot for this one because it is the first creepypasta that I ever came across. I don't think I read the story right away. I was just playing a bunch of crappy Flash game recreations of the game. And back then I thought it was absolutely terrifying. The I am God image, Jesus Christ. And of course, Sonic EXE, I have to give it to it. It is a landmark in gaming creepypastas. And I feel similar gaming creepypastas that followed after it, I felt were stealing ideas from it, just the whole video game being cursed and whatnot. And even though the works that came after Sonic EXE were sometimes very cringe and very rough, I feel it's gotten better in recent years, because I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where people kind of do their own reinterpretations of Sonic EXE or make their own sort of Sonic analog digital horror thing, and for some of them the quality is on point. But looking back on the story, I feel it does have some highlights, but it also has a lot of moments where it's didn't really age well. mainly because like the lead guy in the story, who I forget his name, is just a giant idiot. There are like multiple points where I'm just like, can you just turn off the game? You don't have to go through this. And also, doesn't it end with like doesn't it end with like a Sonic plushie showing up at the dude's house? Maybe my memory is giving me lies, but I'm pretty sure that that's how it ends. So yeah, it has some stuff to admire, and I really like, I guess, the output that this inspired in recent years, but it's also very flawed. I think a C is fair. Mouse.avi. Can't say the original name because YouTube. Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, it's a classic, like, cursed Mickey Mouse short. Has inspired some rough works, but also some pretty great works. I literally made a video about one work of Mouse.avi that I really loved. But yeah, you know, it's simple, but at some points I feel like it's a little too simple. I feel like the original story had like a lot of untapped potential that could be further expanded upon, and I feel like, you know, it has, and I'm really happy for it. But as for the story itself, I think I would honestly give it a C. All right, Squidward's Red Mist. Also not going to call it by its original name. And God, it is so goofy. I mean, don't get me wrong. The image has aged really well, and it's also really funny how technically it's canon in the SpongeBob universe now. But yeah, like the story is actually really funny. Well, it's unintentionally funny, because God, it is so edgy with Squidward like crying, and also like the hyper realistic eyes. And also, I believe like there are multiple points where like it shows flashes of like dead children or something. Just so all over the place, and just so kind of comical in a way. And also, shout out hyper realistic eyes. I feel like you can literally play a drinking game out of that, where you go through like, I don't know, lost episode creepypastas, video game creepypastas, any creepypasta that uses like an existing IP. You can make a game where you go through all that, and every time they say hyper realistic eyes or hyper realistic gore or hyper realistic anything, take a swig, and I'm pretty sure you'll be knocked out in like the first several minutes. So yeah, really dumb, but also fun, and of course very influential in the long run. So I would put this next to Jeff the Killer in the D row. Max and Ruby 0004. Wow, this is giving me a bit of a nostalgic boost. So, hot take, Max and Ruby 4 is probably one of the best lost episode creepypastas out there. Like, it's something that is like very simple but effective in like some of its ambiguity. Because I feel like, unlike other lost episode creepypastas where it's either extremely edgy or extremely ambiguous or open-ended, Max and Ruby 4 is like mysterious enough that it works. Like, one sort of theory I had is how the whole Max and Ruby DVD thing is like a cursed item that passes down from family to family. Because thinking about how, let's say, the DVD was, like, given through the main character's mail slot, and then eventually he gets a note that says, "Death is our only release," similar to what was said at the end of the Max and Ruby episode. I feel like the DVD acts as, like, a curse that causes whatever family views it to slowly die over time. And sure, like, maybe my theory means absolutely nothing. It's just some sort of thought I conjured up to make this more enjoyable, and I feel like it works. And also, I would argue that the image is not bad at all. Like, of course, it's simple with, like, a Max and Ruby screenshot, but it's, like, deep fried, and they're, like, giant black circles for eyes. But, I mean, I dig it. there's just something about its hollowness that I kind of vibe with. So yeah, in my opinion, this one is a little underrated, and honestly, I would put it up in the B tier with, how I'm describing it. Next up, Candle Cove. If you know this, then it really needs no explanation. I really love its style of formatting, where I believe it's like discussed on like a forum between like a bunch of different users. And I really like its whole theme of looking back on like childhood nostalgia, but then kind of slowly realizing, oh dang, this is like actually a really messed up thing that they were showing to kids. But also one thing that really interests me is like in some of the ways that like these characters describe events that happen in the show. One thing that I kind of wonder is like, was it really that intense, or is it kind of like the image in their mind through like childlike eyes kind of like made the whole thing more sinister than it actually was? Just something really interesting to think about and like pick apart here and there. And also I feel like it kind of like covers some of the basis of the medium of creepypastas themselves, where it's not just like campfire stories on the internet, but also using the medium of online as like a backbone for the story itself. And also the fact that like I believe like this became like a whole season for Channel Zero on Sci-Fi is just really commendable, and I feel like just shows how far creepypastas have come and how like some of them need to be taken like more seriously in the eyes of others. So yeah, easy S tier for me. Ooh, Cupcakes is Cupcakes is very interesting for me, because I remember like back in the day I had such an unreal hatred for the My Little Pony fandom. Like I don't know like what it is. Well, actually no, I know exactly what rubbed me the wrong way, because I remember there was a point where I was like exposed to like some of the weirder and cringier aspects in the My Little Pony fandom, with like all the weird brony stuff that's going on. And I remember that I hated My Little Pony. I think I hated it more than 2012 Justin Bieber. Like I could not stand it at all. But the weird thing about it is that two works that like I kind of gave a bit of an exception to was Luna Game and Cupcakes. Because something that I feel like both those things did really well is take like, a beloved children's property and kind of made things unassuming, and then like flip the whole thing on its head by like showing like some of the most horrific shit to people and getting a reaction out of it. And I feel like with Luna Game, it managed to do that by being a really effective screamer game, and Cupcakes managed to do that by being like a very violent, gore-centric fanfic. And I remember when I first read Cupcakes, it kind of hit something weird for me. So here was me as an edgy teenager, and I did not know what to make of it, because one side of me was like, oh my gosh, I love how graphic some of the writing can get. And another side of me was like, wait a second, but I hate these characters. But like eventually I gave in, and I solemnly admitted to liking that story. And I still like it to this day. I really like how violent and how far it like pushes the envelope, but like not to the point where, I don't know, it's something like The Playground where it's like, okay, what are we doing here? It's a very brutal story, and it doesn't try to be anything else. It knows that, oh yeah, sure, we're just a gory spectacle and we're proud to be it. So yeah, I really like it, and I feel like in a way Cupcakes like kind of shows like how violent these creepypasta stories could get. So yeah, I'm going to give it an A. Oh boy, and now we are falling from grace with Raprat. So far, I feel like out of all these things that I'm talking about, this one might be my least favorite. Like, this story is so terrible. Like, I think even as a kid, when I came across this, I was just like, no. The only aspect that I think is interesting is how, I believe, like, it goes into, like, the whole backstory of how the whole puppet was, like, cursed because, like, a worker there got killed, and they're like, oh, Appy curses you or something. And then later in the story it says, don't say that word out loud or else he'll get you. And I'll admit that's, like, the one thing in the story where it's like, okay, that's, like, very interesting for young people to come across, like, oh no, I said it, oh. But everything else is just such a slog to get through. Like, I was just not really happy at all, like, reading it and, like, going through it. I mean, I'm sorry if you're, like, fans of this, but yeah, this is not for me. F. Slender Man. I understand with some people if they're like, oh, Slender Man is a, very basic. And I mean, I kind of get the critique, but at the same time, like, I can't really think of a more suitable mascot for creepypastas than him. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that, like, the original Slender Man thing, like, wasn't even a story, but, like, a photoshopped picture that someone entered in, like, a contest or something. And something that I find really interesting about Slender Man is that instead of, like, let's say being just one concrete story and then, like, people try to build off of that, it's almost as if, like, the image of Slender Man himself is the story, and how people have been recreating him and doing their own works on him online, just, like, building things up little by little, and also just creating a whole mythos around him. It's just something that, I have to admire when looking at the bigger picture of things. And also I feel like this just adds on to, like, why I was, like, really mad about the movie. Because Slender Man, based on, like, his presence online and, like, how people talk about him and make fan art of him and whatnot, he has, like, so much potential to, like, scare a lot of people. I mean, literally, his presence online was so infectious to the point that there's literally a murder in real life around him. Like, that's crazy. And again, it's just, like, the power on how building up one character's mythos can go, especially in an online space. And the fact that, like, this happened, like, so early on and people are still referencing him and building off of him to this day just makes Slender Man itself just so timeless to me. So obviously I'm going to have to give it an S tier. I remember enjoying Abandoned by Disney when I was younger, and then I appreciated it even more after I watched Pastra's video about it. Shout out Pastra, by the way. Does it have its, like, ridiculous moments? Sure. But looking deeper into it, I feel like it's just such an interesting way of showcasing some corporation trying to bury some dark secrets and only having it just, like, fester and mold away at, like, some of the foundations, which I feel like is incredibly fitting because I cannot think of a more corporate corporation than Disney, and I hate them. Like, I'm sorry, any Disney adults who are watching this, but I cannot stand them. And again, the whole idea of, like, a photo negative Mickey outfit sounds ridiculous on paper, but the way the story uses it to say something deeper, I think is really cool. So yeah, really enjoy this, and I would give this an A. Ben drowned. Whew, boy. I mean, what else do you want me to say? It's just a Legend of Zelda creepypasta. I can kind of understand how it got popular as much as it did. I think the first half of the story is decent. I thought it was cool that like it had its own gameplay footage attached to it. Really kind of helps like fill in some of the spaces on like what's going on with the game. And I feel like, you know, there are some like tiny details with like how the character describes the game and how some things are brushed off as like, oh, these are weird glitches, or heck, even like the fact that the character is seriously drawn into the game, which I'm pretty sure could be seen as like some sort of commentary on video game addiction, especially in kids these days. So I feel like there's something there, but god damn, it takes such a downhill once he uses Cleverbot. Like, the whole Cleverbot section is interesting on paper, but it's just so, why do we need to see this? Like, literally the whole Cleverbot section feels tacked on to the original story. It's like taking something that's like already, you know, promising and decent, and then just making things like so much worse than it has to be. Like, really disappointing. Honestly, I feel like it's really fitting to be put in the D tier. D for drowned. Yeah, fuck originality. Okay, Smile Dog. I think I talked about this in my creepypastas that make great movies. Yeah, I think it's great. I feel like when it comes to like creepypastas that have like a lot of its hype around an image, I feel like this one is probably one of the best aged ones. Again, I really like the journalism aspect of it. I really like the various images that came out of it. If I were to give like a bit of a funny story about it, I remember the original image, like not the corgi, but like I believe the first one. And one tactic that I did to help me overcome my fear of it is that I set that image as the background for my laptop. So like literally every time I would open my laptop, it would just be that face plastered on the screen, and I'd be like, oh god. And eventually over time I'd be like, oh, there it is. Cool. So I guess that's kind of like how I overcame my fear of the image. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off track. You know, I really love the story, and I also kind of like the angle it takes on how it integrates into the internet, where, oh, the various images you see of Smile Dog online isn't the real image, which kind of like brings up this like what if question of, oh, what if I suddenly get an inbox and it's the real image that causes me to go insane. And I feel like that aspect, I feel like, is really fun and aged really well. And yeah, I just really like Smile Dog all around. Such a good boy. A tier. Easy A. Herobrine. It's kind of funny to think how Herobrine was originally a creepypasta, because nowadays whenever I think of him, that's not at all what I think. I just think of him as like, oh, it's a fan favorite in the Minecraft community where it's like, Steve, but pale eyes? Oh my gosh. The story, honestly, is not really that scary, but it's more interesting. It's the whole idea of some sort of living glitch in the game that's just like messing around with stuff. And you know, like, it was like very fun to see a bunch of Herobrine images and then eventually having it evolve into having him be like a quirky little character in a lot of Minecraft animations. He literally went from this creepy little story of this scary entity that exists in a video game to being featured in a Captain Sparkles music video. Honestly, even though it's not really scary, even back when it was new, in my opinion, I still find it very fascinating and I have a lot of respect for it. So I'm gonna place him in B. YouTube 666. The concept itself is just like so simple that it's criminal, but also just very effective. And I believe like the whole reading feels less of a story and more of like almost like a beta version of ritual pastas, where literally the whole thing is like, if you put YouTube and put 666 into it, you'll be taken to the dark side of YouTube. And also I really like the video that was attached to it. I really like all the weird, red, disgusting textures throughout it. I mean, there are some parts where the video like throws me in a bit of a whiplash, but you know, like it's a pretty decent watch. Yeah, there's not really like too much to comment about the whole YouTube 666 thing in general, but there's something about it that, I don't know, is just oddly charming to me, and I would put it in B tier. However, the same creator for that video also did My House Walkthrough, which is honestly one of the greatest achievements in internet horror to have ever graced YouTube. And because of the admiration that I have for the guy who made the video, I'm gonna have to raise it to A tier. Like, I would be kicking myself in my sleep if I didn't raise it up to A tier, so that's what I'm gonna do. Oh god, Eyeless Jack. Okay, before I tear into Eyeless Jack, I know that there's a lot of fans of Eyeless Jack out there. I kind of understand it, but oh my god, it's no. Honestly, Eyeless Jack, I think, is one of the most overrated classic creepypastas out there. Even when I was a kid with overactive imagination, I found the story to be ridiculous. At least Jeff the Killer has like a look to him and has like his own thing that makes him, you know, interesting and unique in some way. But Eyeless Jack is just some kidney stealer who looks like someone who's trying to do a Shy Guy cosplay. Like, I'm sorry, but Eyeless Jack is just not scary to me. Not even interesting in the slightest amount. Like, honestly, I'm willing to bet money that people know him more for all the obsessive fan art made from him rather than the actual story. Don't like Eyeless Jack. F tier. I feel like, the Tails doll is a creepypasta's way of doing some sort of Bloody Mary thing. But I feel like if you were to do a Bloody Mary-esque story about any sort of creature, why the Tails doll? Like, I mean, I understand its appeal. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are scared about wandering in the dark and there's some spooky creature that's hanging out in there. But looking back on it now, I just feel like it's just so non-essential. Like, I have way more respect for Sonic EXE than I do the whole Tails doll curse thing. Not really crazy for it, and frankly, I just find it dumb. So dumb to the fact that I can't give it any sort of merit. I'm very comfortable with putting it in the F tier. Happy Appy, I mean, it's okay. You know, the idea is interesting enough where it's just a show that gets more and more off-putting as it goes along. You know, just like very inoffensive stuff, not much to say about it. I mean, I really enjoy the fan art that came from it. And I feel like looking back on the tier list, it is like way better than a lot of like some of the other stories that I've covered. So you know what? I'm just gonna put it in C tier for now. Lavender Town Syndrome, you know what, I kind of mess with. Like, I feel like this story itself is, again, like, very simplistic, but also I can totally understand why it got as much attention as it does, which, for those of you who don't know, is basically how the original version of Lavender Town Syndrome caused, like, a bunch of kids between a certain age to commit scooter ankle. And so, like, I am undoubtedly certain that when this story was new, like, a bunch of kids out there were like, oh my gosh, is that true? I gotta try it for myself. Which is actually kind of messed up to say it out loud. Like, this tune killed someone? and I'm in that age? Oh, well, I gotta find out if it works on me too. Like, it's a fun little gimmick, nothing to be too mad about. And one thing that I kind of mess with this is the original song itself, because the Lavender Town soundtrack is honestly a banger. I would easily put it in like my top 5, maybe even top 3 tunes from the old school Pokemon games. Like, I really think it's that good. So yeah, for this one, I'm gonna be nice and put it in the B tier. The Rake. Okay, don't clip this out of context, but man, y'all are really scared of a bunch of skinny white guys. But in all seriousness, the Rake is not bad at all. I really enjoy the image itself. And, I feel like the character model for the Rake has been used time and time again. And looking at the story itself, I find it very interesting how it's in the form of a series of journal entries taking over, like, different places in time. And I feel like that alone is, like, a very interesting setup. And then there's the whole thing of the Rake being this creature that is prompted to take away something that others hold dear once they wake up and notice it. There's a lot of groundwork to, like, bounce off of. I have some respect for the Rake. There are some, like, better works out there, and it's not on, like, the same level as, like, let's say a Smile Dog, but I feel like it's good on standing on its own 2 feet. So I think I would put it in the B tier. Russian sleep experiment. Again, it's just something that doesn't need any introduction. And like in a sea of like your Sonic EXEs or your Squidward Red Mists or your Ben Drowns or whatever, Russian sleep experiment is like a breath of fresh air. The story itself, I think, is really good, and I can like see it being like as a bit of an inspiration for creepypastas that are like focusing less on using the internet and online forums as like a medium and more as like its own scary stories in the dark type reading. But also, one funny little tidbit I gotta give out is how popular the image that attached to it is. I literally remember when I went to the Santa Cruz Boardwalk and they had an attraction there called the Fright Walk, and in that fucking attraction was that image. I mean, I can't really think of any other praise to give this that hasn't already been said before. Yeah, I mean, obviously A tier, no dur. Yeah. Oh god, we finally reached the end. The SCP Foundation. If I were to give another hot take, I am pretty sure that we would not have stuff like the backrooms and the whole liminal spaces thing if it wasn't for the SCP Foundation. Because if you really think about it, the whole feel of SCP with like all its gray underground corridors and all these like entities that inhabit the area, that stuff like predates like a lot of the analog horror liminal space type stuff that you see nowadays. But something I really admire about the SCP Foundation is its sense of community. If my memory's correct, I'm pretty sure that like one of the first things that came out of it was 173, who was like basically an angel statue type creature, and then it just like blossomed from there. And I really love how it's like grown over time and what different types of creatures or objects are added to the whole thing. And I feel like the whole construction of it is very similar to Slender Man, where it's less about like forming a coherent story and more about constructing a universe over time online and allowing this like sense of community where like people, communicate with one another and be like, oh, well, I thought of this idea. Oh, I thought of something to expand on a certain entity in the SCP Foundation. And, you know, while I'm sure there are like some stray duds here and there, I feel like at its best, some of the entities that people have come up with could be like their own standalone story. And yeah, the SCP Foundation as a whole is just experimental with, oh, what if we took this one idea but pushed it in this direction? Or, oh, I thought of an idea of a creature and here are its own rules and how it functions. And they're like, oh, well, that's a great idea. Let's add it to the universe. And it's just really fascinating to see the various ideas that people come up with and find a way for whatever creation they make to function in this world that they made. And considering how far back the SCP Foundation goes, right now I feel like there's just such a dense rabbit hole that has been constructed that you can just spend all day like digging around in. Just really, honestly, inspiring stuff. And I feel like, you know, the way I'm describing it and the lengths I'm going at, I just have to give it an S tier. Just finishing off strong with this one. So yeah, that is my ranking for this list. I'm honestly pretty proud with what I came up with. I had a bit of fun talking about them and kind of going through memory lane. I feel like I could maybe do another one of these things, and if I do, make sure you comment down below on if there are any other lists I should try out, or maybe some things that I could possibly cover in a future video. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, maybe even subscribe. So yeah, I think I've covered everything. Thanks again. My name is Valentino, and I'm gonna get some dinner now because I am hungry. See ya.